Hello and welcome back to the Game Lore Archives. This time we'll be tackling Talos, also known as Tiber Septim, and many other names besides. He's one of the most important figures in Tamrielic history, and his influence covers almost all of the continent. He conquered all of Tamriel, founded the Third Empire, and the Septim dynasty ruled for hundreds of years afterwards. He's pretty important, and so we're here to fill you in on all things Talos. But before we do, please subscribe and turn the alerts on, then YouTube will tell you every time we upload, so you don't even have to check.
Simple.
Yeah, easy.
Tiber Septim's early life is a bone of contention, which apparently means really awkward topic, but I didn't know this. And there are two prevailing theories of what happened.
Because of course nothing is ever simple in Elder Scrolls lore.
One which is considered to be the most accepted, and the second is considered to be pure heresy. So first we'll talk about the heretical theory. Tiber Septim was born in Alclair, and at the time he was called Hijalti Earlybeard, where he was taught to fight. Hijalti then led the forces of Skyrim in a fight against the Reachmen of High Rock, and it was in this campaign he met Cuchulainn, who was the king of Falkreath and had come to secure his northern border. Hijalti was a tactical genius, and Cuchulainn named him general of their joint forces. Between Cuchulainn's extra troops and Haldir's tactics, the Reachmen were quickly pushed back to the gates of Old Herolden. These gates were impenetrable, and with no further reinforcements likely, it seemed Hijaldi was unable to finish off the Reachmen. One night, a storm passed over Hijaldi's camp, and at its centre was Wulfharth, the spirit of the old Nordic king, who taught Hildi the way of the voice. At dawn the next day, he marched to the gates of Old Herolden and shouted them down. His men poured in behind him, and finally victory was achieved. After this, his men named him Talos, which meant Storm Crown.
Cuchulainn was planning to crown himself emperor, but Talos still had the Greybeard's prophecy lingering in the back of his mind, which foretold of his own rise to emperor. Talos decided to assassinate Cuchulainn before he could crown himself. Talos burnt down the imperial palace and cut his own throat to deflect suspicion. He no longer had use for his shout, but Zurian Arctus, the Grand Battle Mage, crowned him emperor. His closest advisors were Zurian Arctus and Ysmir Rultharth, the one who taught Talos the way of the voice, and they helped to govern the new empire. Ysmir pushed for expansion into Hammerfell and Morrowind, but Talos rebuked him and resisted his constant requests. Eventually, Ysmir left Talos in contempt. However, it appears Talos made a good call as both Morrowind and Hammerfell joined the Empire without having to launch full-scale invasion into each.
Talos' good friend, a Dwemer called Symmachus,
Close enough.
who was also one of Talos' most effective generals. He brought Baranzia to the Imperial City, where Talos fell in love with her. They engaged in an affair, and it was not long before she became pregnant. Talos wanted nothing to get in the way of his son's dominion, so ordered a healer to cause Baranzia to have a miscarriage, and she was dispatched from the Imperial City. The tribunal then gave Talos the Numidium, so that they can keep some self-rule while still being part of the Empire. He summoned Wulfharth back to the court under the guise of an apology, and admitted he did need to invade Morrowind, and Wulfgar was right all along. Talos then took Wulfgar's soul and put it in the Mentala, which was a special stone that powered the brass giant, and helped to complete the conquest of Somerset Isles. So this is the heretical version of the events. So how do they differ from the more accepted version?
Well, there are a couple of differences. One that makes a small difference and one that makes quite a large difference. The small difference is that he was actually from Atmora and he was already called Talos.
Would he already be called Tiber Septim? Because wasn't Talos his god name? Or am I thinking it the other way around?
So it kind of gets confusing because he's Tiber Septim when he becomes emperor, but they call him Talos because Talos means storm crown because of his voice. And then when he ascends to godhood, they just call him Talos as a god.
Right.
It's really weird. I don't know why they do it that way around, but they decide to do that. So the small difference is that he's actually from Atmora and already called Talos. He learns his swordcraft in Skyrim, and from there he joins Cuchulainn. The second difference, which is somewhat more important, as it's the difference between Talos being a cold and calculated, power-hungry traitor, or him being a victim of circumstance who makes the most of a tragedy to overcome difficult odds and better himself. The difference is that he did not actually kill Cuchulainn himself and burn the place down, and that it was actually a Nightblade from Hammerfall. The pros and cons of this theory are manifold. For example, why would he kill Cuchulainn if he was already destined to become emperor? But maybe he thought that Cuchulainn would not pass it on to him when the time came. Also, why would someone go to the extent of cutting their own throat and losing the shout to deflect blame? But if it was a professional assassin, I'm fairly sure that he would know to cut deep enough and would make sure that it actually killed him. This can go on, and of course without actually being there we'll never know. But I personally prefer to think that he did not kill Cuchulainn. They were both working towards the same goal. Also, he was such an important person in Cuchulainn's court that I imagine that he probably already had great influence and all the wealth he could want, so there was literally no reason to usurp him. Even with Baronezia, he sent her away so as not to create instability within the empire which he worked so hard for.
This problem with Tiber Septim and the truth behind his history is so extensive that we don't even know for sure what race he is. And it's strange for someone as prominent and well known as you think, you know what race people are normally. We do know he's not beast folk, so he's not Argonian and not Khajiit, and he's definitely not a Mer. So if he was from Alaclaire, it would make him more likely Breton. The goddess Cain calls him a man-mer as well, which is another name for the Bretons, as they're half men, half elf, and the word of a goddess is fairly reliable. However, there's also a priest called Heimska in Whiterun in the 4th era who says that he's a Nord, and obviously the Nords are the one that believe in Talos most of all, which is possibly less reliable, but it's weird that a whole race would be supporting one guy and it's not even their race. One of the most important things we know about Tiber Septim, however, is that when he did die, he became a god, which was then known as Talos, and this made the 8 divines become the 9 divines that we know today, or as some refer to it, the 8 and 1. And this goes over relatively well, and people who care worship him, and people who don't care kind of ignore him, until of course the new Aldmeri Dominion took over the empire through conquest and forced them to sign the White Gold Concordat, and this outlawed the worship of Talos and caused the Stormplague Rebellion.
Tiber Septim's legacy was huge. He united all of Tamriel into one empire and brought a large degree of peace. His bloodline then ruled through the whole of the 3rd era. He then became a god who in turn caused a massive civil war within Skyrim. But the question is he a benevolent ruler who united the races to bring peace? Or is he an evil traitor who killed to get to the top and rule over everything? Let us know what you think in the comments.
And if you don't believe in him, you're a faithless Imperial.
You are a faithless, damned Imperial dog. And also, don't forget to subscribe and click the alert so you know when we're putting our new videos up.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.